Let's move back domestically to Colorado. Again, getting back to what you do and what you think about every day to keep America safe in this Trump administration. What concerns me, and maybe tell me if I'm naive, but I've never seen people on American soil target people the way that they have now just for their faith, right? People are seemingly saying, I'm going to kill you because of what you. Now, we've had issues in the past. I'm not ignorant of the past, but I'm saying I've never seen this kind of, there's been hatred, there's been racism, there's been all these evils in our country. And yet people are now literally going, and this guy who we've now captured says, I was planning this for a year. I would do it again. That's scary.
So we have seen assaults by individual actors against church communities. You remember that black church not too many years ago where we had a lone gunman kill many of the parishioners. That was a race-based assault.
Right.
But there is, to your point, there is something, a higher level of atrocity here. If you just put it into the context of the last 4 years, the 900% increase in anti-Semitism in the last 4 years, and also in the context of 20th century history. I didn't want to believe this when one of my colleagues at the NSC told me this yesterday, and I said, hey, can you get me the source for that? And within minutes, he sent me the local news reporting that confirmed it. Think of what this event was. This was a weekly event of American Jews, mostly elderly Jews, who once a week, in solidarity with the hostages of Hamas, who've been incarcerated in tunnels underground for 500 days, they would just come to this mall and just stand there in solidarity with those young men and women, those elderly grandmothers, grandfathers who are still being held hostage. And up comes this illegal alien, a guy who was here, who'd overstayed his visa from Egypt, who tried to burn them alive. And why is this worse than anything we've seen before, Sean, to what you said? Because one of the now it's up to 12. One of the 12 injured parties is a survivor of the Holocaust. So this is a person who, beat the death camps, didn't get put in the ovens, didn't get burnt alive by the Third Reich, and is living here in America, and then is almost burnt alive by a jihadi, which is what this person is. And for me, I'll give you a little bit behind the scenes. So when I heard the news, I was at home and I said, okay, I'm going to the sit room. Because, people have all seen the Situation Room from the movies, the one so well, Under the West Wing, but they don't really know what it is. It's not just the place where the president sits with the cabinet when there's something really important going on, like the Bin Laden raid or what have you. The Situation Room, the White House, what we call WIZAR, the White House Situation Room, is also a hub for intelligence. It's a kind of a clearing house, the up-to-date, hottest, most important information the president and the White House needs when there is an eventuality. And so I said, okay, I don't have a SCIF in my house. I don't have a secure compartmented information facility. So I'm going into the White House. It doesn't matter whether it's, Sunday night, I'm going to go in. And I get in there and I get the feeds and I think, well, hang on a second. This is a pattern we've seen before. This is an individual who was led into this country, said he's going to be here for 2 weeks, and then applies for asylum after he's been here working illegally. And then suddenly he decides to kill Jewish Americans. This is why 77 million Americans voted for President Trump. And as I'm going into the sit room, as I'm, driving to the White House, okay, I say, call Kash Patel. I call Kash Patel. I call Dan Bongino. And you know what it's horrific. All of this is horrific. And, hopefully this man gets locked away for the rest of his life. But who was it? Who was that? That senator from from Illinois. What was his name?
Durbin?
Obama. Do you remember Obama who said, elections have consequences? And I'm on my way to the White House as we're, getting the reports. And I am being told by my buddies at the FBI, the woke local police are refusing to call this a terrorist attack because, of course, it's Boulder, Colorado, and we know what it is. And God bless Dan and God bless Cash. Within minutes, they are posting on Twitter, on Truth, this is a terrorist attack. That's the difference between 138 days ago and today, because we take the threat seriously and we call it what it is, Sean.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I cannot believe that I didn't know the local police thing. That's insane. This guy literally tries to firebomb people. He plotted it for
the local police chief said on camera, we don't yet know the motive. As I'm in the sit room watching the videos from the people who recorded him saying, you are child killers, stinking Zionists, I'm doing this for Palestine. So I'm watching the videos on X, and the local police chief doesn't know the motivation. This is why President Trump is the president again, because people have had it with this garbage.
Well, but what concerns me, and again, I don't get what you get information-wise, but it comes on the heels of just a week earlier, these two individuals in Washington, D.C. being killed at a Jewish institution, a museum, clearly targeted for their faith. And it's like, I mean, yes, in that one instance, it was an illegal who was in the country and allowed to overstay. And I get President Trump's outrage, well-deserved. But what the heck is going on when people, we've had anti-Semitism. You brought up the church in Charleston, South Carolina, where people were targeted for their race. But this is, to me, continued events where people have to worry. I walked by a synagogue not far from my house the other day. There's police outside as they gathered for Shabbat. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck is happening? And are these isolated incidents, or is this a bigger problem?
There's nothing isolated about it. And we're addressing this in the draft counterterrorism strategy that we've just completed for the president, the US counterterrorism strategy. If you don't connect the dots to thousands of people on the streets of New York chanting from the river to the sea, the pro-Hamas demonstrators on the campuses at the Ivy Leagues, and President Gay of Harvard in front of Congress saying, from the river to the sea, the annihilation of Israel, I'm not sure that's genocidal. It depends upon the context in which it's spoken. Then there's a direct line. I'm sorry, there is a direct connective tissue between all of that and that man gunning down that beautiful young couple not far from where I'm sitting, and then saying on camera, I did this for Palestine. It's all connected. And that's why the president and Stephen Miller and Pam Bondi are taking these incredibly important measures to rip the genocidal, un-American, Jew-hating ideology out of these incubators, which are our colleges.
Yeah, I will say this, you guys are doing it. You're trying to keep us safe, but I am blown away by the silence from the media and the left to say what you just said, which is so blatantly obvious. You don't need a classified briefing. And yet there's dead silence. And this is coming from the left. It is unbelievable that you guys are putting together a strategy and having to think to yourself, it's amazing how one side of the political spectrum refuses to call this out.
But Sean, let's flip it. This is now the Sebastian Gorka NFC show, and my guest is Sean Spicer. I'm not a politician, okay? I'll never forget what my dad said to me when I was a kid. He said, politics, so disgusting, so filthy, but oh, so interesting. I'm not a politician. I'm a national security wonk who just got his dream job back on January the 20th. You've been in politics for a little bit of time. Let me ask you how you get your head around it, that it's not just they refuse, the Democrat Party, the establishment, the quote-unquote experts, the legacy media refuse. I mean, the story of that young couple being gunned down, it's gone, it's dead, right?
No.
They refuse to connect that to Colorado.
By the way, Seb,
I'll
tell you this. This is interesting. I brought this up the other day, but Sarah Williamson, you may remember her. We both probably worked with her to some degree at Newsmax. She had a really interesting take that no one else had said to me, and it was obvious. She goes, if you think about it, the media keeps saying this young couple who worked at the Israeli embassy, as if that's why they were targeted. And she pointed out the gunman didn't know that. He knew that they were at a Jewish museum. He targeted them for their faith, not for where they were employed.
Right. Bingo. Absolutely. So on the one hand, that story is, even the perverted, misrepresented version of that story is deep sixed. No mention is made with regards to Colorado. No connection is drawn to Harvard, to the river, to the sea, to the BDS movement, none of it. But on the flip side, Sean, and you explain this to me, okay, that's their take to the reality of the threat. But what do they care about? What do they bang the drum on? They send politicians, they send senators to go and meet MS-13 members who have been deported and incarcerated, and they're having hearings on Capitol Hill about the rights of members of MS-13 being denuded of them and how this is unconstitutional. Sean, I just, kill jihadis for a living, or at least, I'm responsible for the counterterrorism policy of the president. I can do that. I don't get what I just described to you. Politically, I don't know how you have a soul and you do what I just said.
I think you just gave me the topic of my Friday column, because President Trump says this all the time on a variety of subjects. It's common sense. Like, there are things that shouldn't be political. And he says these things all the time on, the border and on this kind of thing, where it's like, this isn't about Republican or conservative. It's about common sense. Yeah. It's about in the best interest. Seb, can you indulge me for 60 seconds? I got one thing I want to ask you that's off topic.
Yeah, of course. Okay. My favorite color is burgundy.
Yes. No, there was something you did the other day, and when Seb Gorka did it, I said to myself, this is interesting. I didn't see this coming. You attended a town hall, and I didn't say anything to you before. I didn't text you, as I do with others when they engage with people who I don't understand why we engage with, and yet you did it. Let me play a clip for the audience of you at this town hall. Take a look.
If you're a member of Al-Qaeda, you're a terrorist.
How do you know if they're members of these gangs?
You mean the tattoos MS-13 on our knuckles doesn't that doesn't help it? Do you have tattoos of Al-Qaeda?
The tattoo did not say MS-13. I don't want to get into that.
Oh, of course it does. It's just accidents that the four symbols represent the letters MS. See, this is why Politico is a joke. This is why you are gutter press and fake news.
Okay. The clip goes on, but the bottom line is, you accept an invitation to Politico, and I have a head-scratching moment. I go, this is not the Seb Gorka I know. Has he jumped deep into the swamp? What has happened to my friend, the man that I've known that's taken on? And then you come at them like a spider monkey, like a ninja. And it was like she didn't see it coming. She was sitting back there going, whoa, where's this coming from? Did you go into that event saying, all right, I'm going to call you guys out?
All right, so here's the backstory to the Politico. I hate those people worse than the filth on the bottom of my shoe when I step in a dog turd. I mean, truly, what those people, they wouldn't know journalism if it hit them over their head like a ball-peen hammer. They're scum. They're un-American. They're propagandists. I hated them 8 years ago when they came after you, me, the president, my family, his family, and I detest them today as human filth. I didn't want to be there. I told her in the green room, I'm here as a personal favor to a member of the White House who said, would you represent us? I did that as a personal favor. And I gave that woman her marching orders. I said, I'm here under duress. I will answer these questions. I will not answer these questions. And she disobeyed my instructions. And so I just went full Gorka on her. And it was a funny experience, because not only do I come back to the White House pissed at myself because I let them get to me, although people said I wasn't my most angerful, But I get back to the campus of the White House, and people I didn't even know who they are, like high-fiving me. You know, the chief of staff of the NSC calls me the god of war. Everybody's saying that was amazing. And then, the weirdest thing is, maybe you can explain this as a media maven. Of course, I have my name set on Google Alerts, right? So I see what the garbage they're writing about me every single day. That was 3 weeks ago or something. Politico posts that clip every single day. I get a hit, Seb Gorka, Town Hall Politico, from Politico every single day. So I guess they must be masochists or something, Sean. I don't know.
No, the lengths to which they'll go to get clips and clicks is unbelievable. Seb Gorka, I had so much more to talk to you, but apparently you have to keep our country safe, and I appreciate that. Thank you for your service to the country. Thanks for sharing your time with us, as always.
God bless you. Thank you, Sean, and thanks to all your viewers and listeners.
Thanks.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.